What if the difference between a car that dies at 150,000 miles and one that's still running strong at 500,000 has almost nothing to do with the badge on the hood, how much you paid, or whether you happened to buy it on a lucky Tuesday? What if it came down to a handful of habits, most of them free, none of them complicated? And the only reason nobody laid them out for you is that there's genuinely no money in teaching you how to keep a car forever. A car that won't die is a customer who stops showing up. Today, that changes. The one honest promise. Before we get into it, one straight up promise, because I'd rather you trust me on the things that matter than have you walk away thinking I oversold this. No habit on this list turns a badly built car into an immortal one. Some cars are assembled better than others. Some climates are harder on vehicles than others. And yes, plain dumb luck plays a role. Hey, we've all seen that one beat up pickup with 300,000 miles on it, held together by a bumper sticker and sheer stubbornness. What these habits do is remove the self inflicted damage. The stuff that kills perfectly good engines and transmissions decades before they should go. Most vehicles that die young don't fail because the engineering gave out. They fail because someone skipped the cheap stuff long enough that the expensive stuff had no choice. Stack these habits together and you genuinely tilt the odds hard in your favor. That's the real promise. No magic, no bottle, no upsell. Let's go. Habit 10. Stop warming up your car the wrong way. Let's start by killing a piece of advice your grandfather gave you that was already outdated before you were born. The old rule was simple. Cold morning, start the car, let it sit and idle for 5 or 10 minutes before you drive. And in 1975, with a carbureted engine that needed time to stabilize its fuel mixture, that rule made sense. Those engines were temperamental. They needed coaxing. Here's the problem. You are almost certainly not driving a 1975 anything. And on any modern fuel injected engine, which is every car built in the last 30 plus years, long cold idling doesn't protect your engine. It actually works against it. Here's the chemistry. A cold engine runs rich. That means it injects extra fuel to compensate for cold conditions and keep itself running smoothly. And raw fuel sitting in your cylinder is a solvent. It washes the protective oil film right off your cylinder walls while the engine just sits there going nowhere. It also dilutes your oil, thinning it at the exact moment you want it thick and protective. And the irony? A cold engine idles for a long time before it reaches the operating temperature. Drive it gently and it warms up significantly faster. So here's what you actually do. Start it. Give it about 30 seconds, just long enough for oil pressure to build and circulate. Then pull away gently. Easy throttle. No hard acceleration, no highway on-ramps, no showing off to nobody. Just calm, light driving for the first 2 or 3 minutes until the temperature gauge lifts off cold. That's it. Your engine warms up faster, the reach running period is shorter, and your cylinder walls stay protected. 30 seconds of patience instead of 10 minutes of idling. Your grandfather would have come around eventually. Habit 9. Learn your real oil interval, not the one on the sticker. Here is a myth that has cost drivers billions of dollars in unnecessary oil changes, kept alive almost entirely because the people selling you oil changes benefit from you believing it. For decades, the rule was change your oil every 3,000 miles. That rule is a relic. It was written for conventional oil in older engines under older conditions. Modern synthetic oil in a modern engine routinely goes 7,500 to 10,000 miles, sometimes more, under normal driving. The quick lube industry has not updated its windshield sticker accordingly. Funny how that works. But here's the half of this story that actually matters, and almost nobody tells you. Those long intervals assume normal driving. And a lot of drivers are not doing normal driving. They're doing what manufacturers call severe service. Short trips under 5 miles where the engine never fully warms up, stop and go traffic, towing, hot or dusty climates. If any of that describes your daily life, and for a lot of people it describes all of it, your real interval is shorter, often around 5,000 miles. The biggest oil mistake isn't changing too late by the manual. It's not knowing which schedule actually applies to you. So, do two things. First, use the exact oil specification your manual calls for. Look for the API certification mark on the bottle, that little starburst symbol, because your oil life monitor is calibrated assuming you're running the right spec. Put in the wrong oil, and the monitor is lying to you. Second, pick your interval based on how you actually drive, not how you wish you drove, not the optimistic number on the sticker from the shop that just wants you back in 3 months. And one rule that's never optional: change the filter every single time. Fresh oil through a dirty filter is like showering and then toweling off with a gym sock. You're not really doing yourself any favors. Habit 8. Treat transmission fluid like it has an expiration date. This one makes transmission shops quietly wealthy, so listen up. A lot of modern vehicles are sold with so-called lifetime transmission fluid. And I understand why that sounds great. Set it and forget it, right? Except when you read the fine print, lifetime often means the life of the warranty, not the life of the car, not your life, the warranty. After that, you're on your own. Here's the reality. Automatic transmission fluid does the same job engine oil does. It lubricates, it cools, it protects, and it breaks down the same way engine oil does, through heat and time. And a transmission in stop-and-go traffic, or towing a trailer, or living in a hot climate cooks its fluid far faster than whatever optimistic condition the engineers were imagining when they stamped lifetime on the spec sheet. Burnt, degraded fluid loses its protective properties, and it leaves deposits. And those deposits lead to the kind of transmission failure that runs you $3,000 to $5,000 at a shop. For a repair that a $40 fluid change done on a sensible schedule almost certainly would have prevented. Most specialists suggest somewhere in the range of every 30 to 60,000 miles, depending on how hard the car works. If you're towing regularly or sitting in traffic every day, lean toward the shorter end of that range. One caution worth mentioning: if you're dealing with a high mileage transmission that has never had its fluid changed in its entire life, don't go straight to an aggressive flush. Talk to a mechanic you trust about a gradual drain and fill approach instead. Shocking a neglected transmission with a full pressure flush can actually stir up debris and cause its own problems. Go gently. It's been through enough cheap fluid changes. Best insurance money you will ever spend on a drivetrain. Full stop. Habit 7. Run top-tier fuel. Every single time, this is the one that looks like an upsell until you see the actual data, and then it becomes one of the easiest decisions you make at the pump. This is not about premium versus regular octane. Run whatever octane your manual specifies for your engine. That's a separate conversation. This is about detergents, specifically a voluntary standard called top tier, which requires fuel brands to include significantly higher levels of cleaning additives than the federally mandated minimum. AAA commissioned independent lab testing on this, and the results were not subtle. Non-top tier gasoline left 19 times more carbon deposits on intake valves and injectors than top tier fuel after just a few thousand miles equivalent of testing. 19 times. And switching to top tier fuel actively cleaned existing deposits, reducing intake valve buildup by anywhere from 45 to over 70% over 5,000 miles. Carbon deposits choke airflow, throw off injector spray patterns, cause rough idle, hesitation, and fuel economy loss. And they hit modern direct injection engines especially hard. Those engines don't wash fuel over the intake valves the way older designs did, so deposits build faster and cause more damage. The price difference I found between top tier and non-top tier fuel averaged about 3 cents a gallon. 3 cents. That is genuinely not a budget question. It's just a habit. Look up which brands in your area carry the top tier certification. It's on their website, and make one of them your default. Done. Habit 6. Use your handbrake. Every single time you park. This one takes 3 seconds. Almost nobody does it. And skipping it slowly destroys a part you've never thought about. When you shift an automatic into park, a small metal component inside the transmission called the parking pole locks the output shaft and holds the car in place. That's it. One little piece of metal carrying the entire weight of your vehicle, especially on any kind of slope, every time you park without the handbrake. Do that for a decade, and you're wearing on a part that costs real money to fix and requires dropping the transmission to access. The fix is an order of operations thing. Come to a full stop. Set the handbrake first, then shift into park. That sequence transfers the holding load to the brake system where it belongs and takes the strain entirely off the parking pole. Works on automatics, manuals, CVTs, even electric vehicles with a mechanical park mechanism. 3 seconds every single time you park. That's the whole habit. You'll never think about parking poles again, which is exactly the point. Habit 5. Keep heat off your car. Heat is the slow, silent killer of everything in your car that isn't metal, and there's an enormous amount of non-metal in a modern vehicle. Every rubber hose, every gasket, every wiring harness connector, every seal, all of it degrades through oxidation, and that process accelerates sharply as temperature rises. A sun-baked engine bay in a hot climate reaches temperatures that hardened rubber and brittle plastic simply cannot survive long term. Hoses crack, seals go brittle and start weeping oil, plastic connectors turn chalky and fail, and none of it announces itself. You find out when a hose bursts or a seal starts leaking, often over something that cost $3 and just never got the chance to last. You can't stop your engine generating heat, but you can stop the sun adding to it for 8 hours a day while the car sits in a parking lot. Park in shade whenever you can. Use a folding windshield sunshade in summer. They genuinely make a measurable difference to cabin and dashboard temperatures. If you're in a consistently hot climate, this habit is one of the highest value free things on this entire list. The parts it protects are cheap. The labor to reach them usually isn't. Habit 4. Flush your brake fluid on a calendar, not a mileage schedule. This is the most ignored fluid in the entire car, and the chemistry behind why it matters is genuinely alarming once you hear it. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. That's a technical way of saying it absorbs water from the surrounding air continuously, even in a sealed system. And it does this on purpose. It absorbs moisture so that water doesn't pool and rust your brake lines from the inside. Smart design. Except the absorbed water has a consequence. Water lowers the fluid's boiling point. The Society of Automotive Engineers found that brake fluid in a typical 1-year-old car already contains around 2% water. In older cars, it climbs past 2.5%. A quarter of tested cars were sitting at 4% or more. And at that level, hard braking down a long hill or in heavy traffic can actually boil the fluid, create vapor bubbles, and give you a soft, spongy pedal exactly when you need maximum stopping power. That's not a maintenance issue. That's a safety issue. Degraded brake fluid also corrodes expensive internal components, like the ABS modulator, from the inside out, and nobody ever suspects the fluid. The fix is simple and cheap. Flush your brake fluid every 2 to 3 years, regardless of mileage, because this is a time and humidity problem, not a distance problem. Use only the specification printed on your reservoir cap. And if you're buying a used car, assume the fluid has never been changed and get it done. Cheap insurance, the real kind. Habit 3. Drive like you're trying to bore yourself. I realize that sounds deeply unappealing. Bear with me. This is the single habit that most separates high mileage drivers from everyone else. And it's not just about saving fuel, it protects 3 systems at once. Every time you accelerate hard and then brake hard at the last second, you burn fuel to build kinetic energy and then immediately throw that energy away as heat through your brakes. You're also heat cycling your transmission for no reason, putting stress on your drivetrain and doing the most wear to your engine in those early cold minutes when the oil film is at its thinnest. The data on this is real. Analysis published through the Department of Energy found that aggressive driving reduces fuel economy by 15 to 30% on the highway and up to 40% in stop-and-go conditions. That's not a rounding error. That's a significant fraction of every tank. Here's the technique. Look further down the road. When you see a red light ahead, lift off early and coast toward it, rather than driving right up to it and braking hard. In any modern fuel-injected car, coasting in gear with your foot off the throttle actually cuts the fuel injectors entirely. You're burning nothing while you slow down. It's the closest thing to free deceleration that exists. Smooth, gradual acceleration. Early lifts, coasting to stops, and especially gentle throttle for the first few minutes of every cold start. That's when most of your engine's lifetime wear accumulates, in those early moments before the oil is fully warmed and circulating everywhere it needs to be. Drive like you're transporting something fragile. Your engine, your transmission, and your brake pads will all outlast those of someone driving like they're late for everything. Habit 2. Chase every small problem before it becomes a big one. The cheapest diagnostic tool you own costs nothing and takes about 30 seconds. It's just attention. Here's a habit worth building. On every cold start, before you pull out of the driveway, Just listen for 15 or 20 seconds. A healthy engine settles into a smooth idle quickly. Once you know what your car sounds like when it's happy, and it doesn't take long to learn that baseline, anything new is information. A tick that won't go away after warm-up. A faint whistle you didn't hear last week. A rough idle that won't smooth out. And especially a knock. If your engine is knocking, you do not drive past that. A knock is your engine asking for help in the loudest voice it has. The whole principle of this habit is timing. A small tick caught early is often a 5-minute, low-cost fix. An adjustment, a top-up, a sensor swap. Ignored until it's loud enough that you can't pretend anymore. That same problem has usually recruited other components into the failure. Now you're not fixing one thing, you're fixing 3. Same applies to new vibrations, burnt smells, a fuel economy drop that showed up over 2 or 3 tanks, a new puddle under the car in the morning. Small problems are quiet and cheap. Big problems are loud and expensive. The habit is just refusing to drive past the quiet stage. Your car is talking to you constantly. The drivers who make it to 500,000 miles are simply the ones who started listening. Habit 1. Keep a logbook. This is the cheapest habit on the entire list. It costs the price of a notebook, or literally nothing if you use your phone, and it's arguably the most powerful thing here. Write it all down. Every oil change, every fluid flush, every part replaced, every filter swapped, dated. And every small observation, the noise that came and went on a cold morning in November, the slight vibration above 70 that showed up in March, the rough idle that cleared after 20 minutes and never came back. Here's what a record does that nothing else can. It turns your entire ownership history into something you can actually see and analyze. When something changes, you're not guessing about when it started. You can look at the page and see exactly when it appeared, what service was done right before it, and what hasn't been touched in 3 years. Patterns that are completely invisible in the memory become obvious on paper. That's how you catch the failing part before it takes 3 others with it. That's how you hand a mechanic real information instead of, it's been making a noise for a while. That's how the cheap repair stays cheap. And there's a second payoff that people always overlook. A car with a complete, honest service history is worth genuinely more when you sell it. Not a little more, meaningfully more. Buyers trust it. Mechanics trust it. A logbook signals that someone cared for this vehicle deliberately, not just reactively. Almost nobody keeps one. Not because it's hard, not because it's expensive, just because nobody ever told them to. Now you know. So there they are. The habits that push ordinary cars deep into the hundreds of thousands of miles. And notice what's missing from this list. No miracle additive, no secret bottle, nothing to order online at 3 in the morning. Just the right fluids changed on the right schedule, heat kept off the car, smooth, deliberate driving, and paying 30 seconds of attention to a machine that is absolutely worth it. One last honest word. No habit here replaces basic mechanical maintenance. This is a basic maintenance, done deliberately and consistently instead of being ignored until something fails. But stack these together over 100,000 miles, and you're not just hoping for luck. You're engineering it. Drop your current mileage in the comments. I want to see how far yours has made it. And don't miss the next one. The fluid change mistakes that quietly destroy engines, including the one almost everyone gets wrong about topping off and mixing. You'll want to see that before your next service. Change the fluids, lose the idle, drive smooth, write it down. That's the whole secret. And almost none of it costs